Where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And there's a lot of smoke right now. I'm in all black today because while it's not publicly official yet, it's time, folks, to prepare your hearts to say bye-bye to Gigi Jackson as a Tar Heel.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Thursday, July 14th, 2022. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or your first watch every single day. Please don't forget that the show is free and available anywhere you get podcasts, so go ahead, subscribe right now. For those of you watching, if you would, smash the like button and leave a comment as we go through a little bit more talking about Gigi Jackson and where things are at. And where things are at is that it sounds like last week Gigi Jackson said on Instagram Live that it was just rumors about him decommitting. It sounds like, yeah, there might have been some rumors, but that those rumors were in fact true. I even tweeted something about it as he was live to say, hey, he's saying it's rumors, everyone chill. I was taking him at his word, and either his word was wrong or I was misunderstanding his word. Whatever the case may be, it is time, folks. There's just too much noise, and it seems imminent from everything I'm hearing that in the next couple of days even we might hear an announcement that Gigi is in fact going to decommit from the Tar Heels. It's time to come to grips with it. Wrap your brain around it, whatever you got to do to prepare yourself that this class we thought was going to be the 2023 #Jordan class for the Carolina basketball team of Simeon Wilcher and Gigi Jackson is going to be Simeon Wilcher and some other people, and we will find out who that is. The clearest and most obvious sign of this to me is what you see Carolina doing right now in recruiting. There really hadn't been too much other movement in the class of 23, but in recent days, Coach Davis has offered two other class of 2023 players from the exact same position that Gigi Jackson plays. That's Zayden and TJ Power. We're not going to spend time talking about them today. We'll certainly do that on another podcast because we want to look at these recruits who have been offered. But as of now, those outside of Wilcher and Jackson, those are the only two official offers in the class of 2023. That is extremely telling to me. And so I want to make that point. I want to make some other points today about what I think is going on, what I think we as Tar Heel fans should be thinking and feeling and experiencing, how we should reconcile with this. And so I'll just make several points here and we'll just roll through them. One of the next things I've been hearing is that there is a $3 million NIL deal on the table for Gigi at South Carolina. Now, that could be exaggerated, that could be just completely patently false. But in this day and age of NIL, when it is not regulated and there's nothing in place, I have no doubts that could be very well true. And if that's the case, if that's what's going on, I don't think that's the game that North Carolina wants to play. I'm going to use this phrase a lot today, but Coach Davis has repeatedly said, I want people who want to be at the University of North Carolina. Translation in this instance, I want somebody who doesn't have a $3 million price tag that we have to fork out to go get them. Now, sometimes that's going to come at the expense of losing a very talented player, but what comes along with that? That's the question you have to ask. Where is that balance of you want the talent, but what is all the baggage that comes along with that? And so you got to keep all those things in mind. Next thing I want to bring up, I have continued to hear rumors, like the speculation is all about, yes, there seems to be pretty firm understanding that Gigi will decommit from North Carolina. The question is, what then does he do? Does he reclassify to the class of 22? Does he go to a different school? Does he stay in the class of 23? And if he does he still go to North Carolina? Does he have enough class credits? All of these questions are floating around. Right now, the only thing of much certainty is that it seems like he is in fact going to decommit from North Carolina. And a lot of people think that is going to be to jump up, reclassify, and go to South Carolina. But one of the things that I'm hearing that I just don't see happening is this. The possibility that he might reclassify to the class of 22 and walk on at North Carolina. Maybe it's because he's able to get enough NIL money just from who he is that he doesn't need a scholarship and he's able to come find a place on the roster. And I'm just going to say, I've seen that floating around on Instagram. Somebody said that, and I'm just going to say, I don't see that happening. Now, it could, and we could come back and that's exactly what happens, and I'll own it. And I'll say, you know what, I was flat out wrong. But I'm just going to say right now, I do not see that happening. It doesn't make sense with what Coach Davis has said. Andrew Jones at Tar Heel Illustrated has talked about, he asked Coach Davis at a press conference this summer about the Will Shaver situation, and Coach Davis didn't want to get into that type of thing again where somebody's graduating early and coming to join the team in January, which would be not exactly what this case would be, but that type of thing where you're making exceptions. I do not see this route of him reclassifying to 22 and walking on at North Carolina. Again, I'll own it. If I'm wrong, cold takes exposed. There we go. Here's probably the biggest point I want to make in this that maybe isn't getting talked about enough. Have you stopped to consider the point or the fact that this might be some type of blessing in disguise, Gigi not coming? Here's why I'm going to say this. If Mama is going to be this much of a nuisance the whole time, if Mama was the most difficult part of the recruiting process, which is something I've heard secondhand from an assistant coach at North Carolina, because everything we're hearing is that the whole reason he is going to decommit isn't him, it's not his dad, it's his mom who wants him to stay home in state and go to South Carolina. Now, he might end up still going to G League. Obviously, we've heard that as one of the possibilities, one of the options, who knows. But if my mom is going to be such a problem, maybe this is a good thing. I wouldn't call it addition by subtraction, because losing a talent like Gigi, you just can't specifically replace that individual. But think about like everything with Walker Kessler and his dad and how that was. Like, if you're a coaching staff, maybe this is a good thing. There are so many great Tar Heel parents that you see active on social media that I've firsthand know and have talked to and know how great they are. You don't want to bring somebody into that mix who's going to upset the whole apple cart. Maybe the Tar Heels have dodged a one-year bullet if they don't have to deal with Gigi's mom. That's something we need to stop and consider. And I just want to wrap up this first segment by pleading this with you. There are so many idiots out there in social media world yelling anonymously from their computer at high school kids and their families and everything else. Whatever it is that Gigi does decide to do, please, please, please be kind on social media. To Gigi, to his family, to South Carolina. Just, let's be classy. There's just no point. All it does is hurt the brand, hurt the image, because to a lot of fans of opposing fan bases, you, as a fan of North Carolina, are the front door to what they see and interact with. Don't be that. Be kind. We're bigger than that. And you know what else? Here's a phrase I'm going to say at the end of all three segments today. You ready for this? I just want to remind you, no one player, Gigi Jackson included, is bigger than the University of North Carolina program. At the end of the day, once again, Coach Davis wants young men who want to be at Carolina. and he's got one. Who is it? We'll talk about it in just a second, right after I tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's nearly impossible for your local auto parts store to stock everything you need. Why have to go through all those questions with the clerk you know you don't know the answer to, and then wait while that person goes to try to find that part for you, when you could just sit at home at your computer, get on rockauto.com, find the parts to order while you're sitting there in your pajamas if you want to, and then just order it for yourself. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. That consistency, friends, is something that you can believe in. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, and their inventory has everything you need. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your vehicle will ever need. That's rockauto.com. Hey, which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Well, starting July 18th, Locked On NFL gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. Available July 18th on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so Coach Davis wants young men who want to be at North Carolina. I'll say that again. You know who wants to be at North Carolina? It sounds like Gigi does, but his mom doesn't. But you know who gets it and who does? Pete Nance. And that brings me to my next point. Got a hot take for you. You ready for this one? On this team, the 2022-23 team, I don't want Gigi Jackson. I want Pete Nance. Woo! Yeah, I can feel and hear some of you getting all ruffled and buffed up right now and saying, Isaac, you're silly. That's just ridiculous. But hear me out. First off, let's just dispel this, that North Carolina didn't move on Pete Nance until Gigi said he didn't want to reclassify. Carolina was actually waiting on Pete Nance. Remember, he said he didn't want to talk until he went through the draft process and did everything. All the while, Gigi's thinking he doesn't want to reclassify. Carolina needs to make their move. They're not going to wait around. The University of North Carolina is a train that keeps on rolling. Again, no one player is bigger than the program. And if Pete Nance is the man that fits and works, that's who we're going to get. Now, again, give me Pete Nance on this team over Gigi Jackson on this team. The reason I say this is because this team is ready to go. You get back 4 of your 5 experienced starters from a team that came this close to winning the national championship this last year. Yes, you lose Brady Manek, another extremely proven college basketball commodity. But you get back your other 4 starters, your dual junior backcourt, your wing, your 3, Leaky Black, who is a super senior now, and your 5, your center, Armando Bacot, who is a true senior. And you bring in and add to that mix Pete Nance, who is, same as Leaky Black, has played 4 years of college basketball and now is going to use his COVID year. Yes, Gigi Jackson is an immense basketball talent, and he would certainly add things. But think about the difference in some of this. With this team that's ready to go, they have experience. They have no need to catch up and learn what it means to be a college basketball player. They hit the ground running. Yes, there are certain things that Pete Nance is going to need to learn about the Carolina system and how Carolina does things differently than Northwestern, just like Brady Manek would have had to do last year, or Dawson Garcia, or Justin McCoy, or any other transfer in this transfer-heavy era. But that's the way of it. If Gigi Jackson had come early and been part of this team, he'd be playing catch-up. Bacot, Black, Love, Davis, they're not going to have any time or patience for somebody having to learn and not understand what's going on. They're ready to step onto the court and go. Pete Nance brings that. Gigi Jackson doesn't. Heck, Puff Johnson brings that. Gigi Jackson doesn't. And this is not a knock on Gigi Jackson. It's just the fact of whether it was Gigi Jackson or any other player in the class of 2023 reclassifying and coming in. It doesn't matter. It's a whole different ballgame. And yes, maybe eventually he catches up, but it just allows you with Pete Nance, you hit the ground and you go and you can open up a much more detailed and advanced practice early in the season. Coach Roy Williams talked about this a lot. Remember, with returning experienced teams, he would talk about what an easy job it was at practice to not have to start at square one. You could start more at square 5, 6, 7, 8 and go from there. And yes, on this team, you have 3 incoming freshmen, 1 in Will Shaver, who's already been there. And they're going to have to catch up, but they're not going to be heavily relied upon as you would if Gigi Jackson had taken the role that Pete Nance will play. Right? They can play catch up, learn along in real time, but Coach Davis doesn't really have to slow down as much to cater to them because he's not going to rely on them. They can learn at their own speed while Coach Davis goes at a graduate advanced level with everyone else who's already been there. Pete Nance has played 4 years in college again. Also remember, Pete Nance is both the son of and brother of an NBA player. So that takes his learning, his IQ, his understanding of what you got to do to a whole other level. Not to mention, you're not dealing with whatever it's going to be with Gigi's mom. You're not dealing that with the Nance family. Man, from all accounts, these people are in... Not that Gigi's mom isn't kind. That's not... Hear me not saying that. But just... It seems like she's just trouble. And with Pete Nance's family, everything I've heard is that they're just extremely kind, understanding people, grateful for every opportunity, so happy to be in Chapel Hill. You hear that? So happy to be in Chapel Hill? They want to be there. That's the person that Coach Davis wants. With Gigi, there would be frustrations. There would be this learning curve. And yes, long term, you get to January or February, March, and hopefully you're further advanced, but you're still not to the point of having played 4 years of college prior to that. It's just different. Different body, different skill set. Now, hear me not saying that Pete Nance long-term has a higher ceiling than Gigi Jackson. That's not it at all. Once again, remember how I phrased it. I want Pete Nance for this team more than I want Gigi Jackson for this team. Now, if you could have them both, great. That would be a phenomenal problem to have. But that's just not the reality of what this year is. So, give me Pete Nance over Gigi Jackson. Because once again, remember, I told you I'm going to remind you every segment, no one player is bigger than the program. And for this year, Pete Nance makes this program better. Hot take. There you go. Now, here's the biggest thing that I want to get to at the end of all this. The reason I can trust and believe in all of this is because I trust and believe in the man at the helm guiding this ship, and that is Hubert Davis. There's going to be some people getting at my man Hubert Davis, and I got no patience for that, and we're going to address that in just a second after I tell you about Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Our friends at Built have given that coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right. The coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. So listen up, these are good for you. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut chunk puffs are only here for a limited time, so go to Built.com right now to make sure you don't miss out. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. The best part about Built Puffs, of course, is that they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they're actually good for you. It's a perfect treat for when you've got a craving, you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or whatever it may be. They're an excellent source of protein for you. Delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow, Stop fantasizing and get to Built.com right now to order your box of Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Puffs. And while you're there, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Big deep breath. Everyone do that with me. You know why? Because while everyone seems to be freaking out and losing their minds about all this Gigi Jackson tumult and turmoil and everything, Coach Hubert Davis as the man at the helm pulling all the puppet strings. Now, I'm not saying this news wasn't a surprise or a frustration to the coaching staffs, because I've heard from multiple people that the coaching staff is ticked about this. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to get it right. You think there's never been recruiting issues before? Teenagers changing their minds? Teenagers change their mind every day about what they want for lunch. I mean, of course these things are going to happen sometimes, especially now in this era of the transfer portal, in the era of NIL, all of this. It's just going to be the reality that if we're going to continue to be college sports fans, we have to wrap our brains around and get on board with. And so here's what I need you to do. In the same way that I'm asking you to not lash out at Gigi Jackson, Carolina family, don't you dare besmirch Hubert Davis. He has no culpability in this whatsoever. Now, I haven't really seen or heard any of that, but I just want to nip it in the bud before it gets going. Here's a tweet I read from, this is not a North Carolina person. This is, I'm going to assume this is a South Carolina fan. I'm not even going to say who it is because I don't want to honor them or give them time. I just want to put out this viewpoint that I've seen. The tweet says this: any day now, Gigi Jackson will decommit and reclass into South Carolina 2022 class. Jackson family must have learned the truth about UNC coach Hubert Davis. It will be great day. That's not my bad grammar, that's the tweets. It will be great day seeing Tar Heel, lowercase one word, come on. Tar Heel fans crying about their future. UNC and Davis deserve it. Gigi Jackson will restore USC. That's cute. First off, no, that's not true. Secondly, you don't get to say USC about South Carolina. That's Southern California. And so I'll just remind you, as I do from time to time on this podcast, USC is the Trojans out west, and Carolina is North Carolina. So South Carolina Gamecocks, you have to say South Carolina. You don't get to use USC or Carolina. Sorry about you. That ain't you. Okay. 100% this is not on Hubert Davis. This is squarely on the shoulders of Gigi's mom, who wants him to stay close to home. If and when this news comes out, which we fully expect it to now, I'm coming to grips with it. I hope you are as well. This is not on Hubert Davis. This is not on any of the assistants. They've done everything they need to do. If you want to think about Hubert Davis being like culpable in this, let me remind you, remember Walker Kessler was going to transfer out? How close Hubert Davis came to getting Walker Kessler back to Chapel Hill? Now, Brady Manek never happens if Walker Kessler comes back, but who knows what last year looks like. Let's not relitigate that. I just purely want to say, do you remember how hard and how hard he tried and how close he came to getting Kessler back after Kessler was gone, out the door? His family was on vacation. Hubert Davis went down there and almost got him back, even called him out from his welcoming press conference to say, I hope Walker Kessler comes back. The dude is a baller, Hubert Davis is. With Gigi Jackson, Hubert has been working, I don't like to call him Hubert, excuse me. Coach Davis has been working so hard to keep him. Coach Davis has been at his games this summer, courtside, watching him, talking to him, working with the family. And so, while I'm resigned to the fact that Gigi's going to decommit, until the news actually comes out, I'm not putting anything past Hubert Davis because he is one of the kindest men on the planet, but he is a fierce competitor. He is convincing. He knows how to sell a young, and when I say sell, I don't mean like use or manipulate. I just mean how to say, listen, you get to come do this. You get to be a Tar Heel. Remember, if you go to South Carolina, cool, you're going to go be a bottom feeder in the SEC for a year rather than having a national championship aspiration if you come to North Carolina. Not to mention everything you get from being a Tar Heel lifelong, 40 years, not 4 years. So just keep all that in mind when you begin to think about putting blame on Hubert Davis. Or if you hear or see others putting blame on Hubert Davis, you stop them dead in their tracks and remind them who Hubert Davis is. Because regardless of what actually does happen with Gigi, which it sounds like we're going to find out pretty soon, you best believe this man, Hubert Davis, will keep the Carolina train rolling. Whether it's getting one of these other high school recruits who he's recently offered, whether it's working the transfer portal like a boss, like he's done the past 2 years, Hubert Davis is the truth. You've seen what this man can do. He'll do it again. Trust it. And let me remind you one more time. No one player is bigger than the University of North Carolina program. That included Hubert Davis a long time ago. That includes Gigi Jackson today. Go Tar Heels. Well, that is it for today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels. Coming up tomorrow, John Garcia Jr. from Sports Illustrated joins me to talk about the hashtag Jordan class, the 2023 recruiting class for the football team and all the great momentum they've had recently. Last week we talked about the defensive side, about the offensive side. This week we've got a couple defensive players. Thanks so much for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or your first watch every single day. Please go subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching. Just as easy as hitting subscribe. In fact, if you're watching on YouTube, there's that little green box down at the bottom. Hover over that and it'll say subscribe. Love to have you do that. Also, smash the like button. Just a small step from you makes a big deal to the show. Would love it if you would do that. And also, would love to hear your comments, your thoughts on Gigi and this whole mess of a thing. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow me on Twitter at Isaac Schade. You can see it right there for those of you watching. ISAACSCHADE. Get more on the ACC by making Locked On ACC your second listen today. Host Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you across the ACC in 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Thanks so much for spending part of your Thursday hanging out with me, trying to sort through all this Gigi Jackson mess. We're wading through the muck and the mire. But no one player is bigger than the program. And you know why? Because every day is a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until tomorrow, peace!